Hello everybody, I am Chantel Budinsky, also known as Miss Frisbees, and today I'm going to be sharing with you what's in my bag. So I've been with Prodigy for almost 2 years now, and when I first started building my bag, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to like and what I wasn't going to like. So I was always the person who loved throwing understable discs, and I still am that person. Most of my discs are understable. I love releasing on a slight hyzer and having it flip up and have a nice turn. So that is mostly what's going to be in my bag. So starting off with my putting putters, I putt with the 200 plastic PA3s, and I really like these because they're super gummy and they're really grippy. They also, when they hit the ground, they don't get up and roll as much as other plastics in my opinion. So these are the best putters in my opinion because they just grab the chains and they stay in the basket. Next up I have my throwing PA3 putters, which I have another 200 plastic PA3, and I have a 500 Spectrum PA3 and also the Special Blend PA3. This one I'm going to be throwing for my shorter approaches that I just want to catch the ground really nice and not really go too far. And then these two are a little bit more stable than the soft plastic, and they will go a little bit further, have more of a stable finish, and get a little bit of a skip as well at the end. Next up is my PA4 in 500 plastic. This has been in my bag for probably the longest. It's beaten to be a really understable disc, and it also is so great for my touchy sidearm and hyzers. So this is mostly a disc that I use in the woods to get out of trouble. A great scramble disc. Another overstable putter that I use for approaches is the PX3. This is a newer addition in my bag, so I haven't thrown it too much, but I've really been liking the flight. It has a really nice straight flight and a nice overstable finish, so if there's any headwind coming through, I will use this instead of my PA3s. Next up are my approach discs. I have the A5 in 300 soft plastic and the Distortion in 400 plastic. This A5 has been beaten in to be super straight with a little bit of a stable finish at the end, but this soft plastic is great for catching the grass and it doesn't bounce too far. And when I need a little bit more distance and a little bit more stability, I will go with the Distortion, and this gets a really nice skip at the end. Next up are my mid-ranges. I have two M4s in 400 plastic. This one's beaten a little bit more, so it's gonna have a slight right turn. This one is pretty dead straight, and I like to have multiple discs in my bag of the same mold just so that I can have different stabilities and beat-inness. And then I just put this in the bag. It's a Strider in 500 plastic, and this one has a little bit more stability at the end of the M4s, so it has nice glide, left finish. It's a great disc. So for my overstable mid-range, I have the MX1 in 500 plastic, and this is a beefcake. I usually use it for my sidearms if I need something to really fly to the right, and this gets a lot of skip at the end, so it's a really good disc for when I'm in trouble and I need something to finish hard. So next up are my fairways, and I'll start with my F5, which is one of my favorite discs in my bag. This is the 500 plastic, and when I first got this, it was a little bit more stable than the other F5s that I were throwing, so instantly I really liked that. I could rely on it a little bit more. And now it's become one of my most used forest discs, woods discs. I use it mostly for sidearm and hyzers to get out of really pinched off places, and it's been a lifesaver. This is also a great disc for a hyzer flip and having a nice turn to the right. I love this disc and I don't know what I would do without it. Next are my F3s. I have a 400 plastic and a 750 plastic. This one is more understable. I can throw it on a hyzer and it pops up and kind of rides right, has a little bit of a fade back. And then this one is more stable. I like to hit this hard on a hyzer. It flips up, has a little bit of turn and fades back more than this one. It's a little bit more reliable, but I really like these discs. Next up, I have the FX3, which is newer in my bag as well. This is more stable than I thought it would be, but I actually quite like the stability. I actually put this in my bag because there was going to be water on the course. I was like, you know what, we're gonna throw something a little bit more stable, have some turn to it, and if I lose it, it's not going to be a huge deal. But now I'm starting to really like it, so I might have to put another one in my bag for that. Next up is the F Model OS. This is a really beefy disc, and I like to use it for mostly sidearms, but also something when I have a headwind and I don't want it to go as far as my distance drivers, but I know it's gonna hold straight and have a nice finish at the end. The next up is my H7. This disc has become one of my favorite discs as well in my bag. You can really do anything with it. I like mostly putting it on a hyzer and having it flip up and turn to the right, but it's also great for really hyzered shots that push super straight and have a little bit of finish. So you can really manipulate this disc, and it's a really fun one. So getting into my drivers, I have two D4s. This one's 400 plastic and this is 400G. This one is definitely more beat in. I like to throw this one when I'm throwing uphill so I can just get a really straight flight and have it push really far. It's also great for hyzer flips and getting it to turn. This one's a little bit more stable. I use it for basically the same thing, or if I just need something to keep turning to the right. These are really fun discs. So next up are my favorite discs in my bag, the D3. These green ones are my babies, and they just have the most beautiful flight that I have a hard time finding this perfect flight in other discs. So I have one that's a little bit more beat in, and the other one's just slightly more stable. So when there's a little bit more of a headwind, I can feel confident and grab my more stable one. And I just put it on a slight hyzer and it pops up and has the most beautiful S flight, and they just go super far. I don't know what I would do without these, so I hope I never lose them. And then I also have two more D3s, another 400G plastic and just a regular 400 plastic. And this one's actually pretty overstable. It's been beating in really nice and straight, but I really like it because it holds really straight and has a nice fade that my other D3s do not have, but it still gets that big distance. And then this one is more understable than my other three, and it's really fun to hit it on a hyzer, watch it pop up and kind of turn to the right. And this is one that I also like to throw over water just because I have confidence with it for some reason, and those are my D3s. Next up are my D2s. This one is definitely more beat in. I've had it basically since the beginning, and I started off using this for my sidearm disc and it just started beating in too much, so I replaced it with this other 400G, and this is perfect for my sidearm. I'm using it for almost all my forehands, and I can just put it on a little bit of an anhyzer and it goes straight for a while and then has a really nice finish. Last up, I have my Gannon Burr 400 plastic D1, and this one is the most beefiest disc in my bag. I use it for mostly forehands that I really need to finish right, but I also like throwing it flat into headwinds because it gets a really nice flight that I can rely on to always come to the left. So the bag that I chose is the BP1 V3. I love this bag because of how massive it is. I can fit like 31 discs in here. That's crazy because I will also pull a Zuka cart and it fits basically the same amount in. So I feel really sorry for Chris because he's always the one carrying it, but I love having a lot of options. So that is everything that is in my bag. If any of this looks interesting, definitely check out prodigydisc.com for more.